back to the daily grind, and y'all know we gotta talk about this. But before we do, make sure you hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting B-word, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
These are the UFC 222 Chris Cyborg versus Kunitskaya predictions. I was gonna do these live where we could have the group chat and everything going with you guys, but we hit that lag spike, and I don't want to fuck up. If this was just a UFC and chill or something, that'd be fine, but not for these predictions. These are fight predictions. We gotta get to it. These gotta be professional. So let's get right into the main card with the first fight of the night, a fight that I flip-flopped on, man. I started off probably Cat Zingano, then I went to Ketlen Vieira, then I went back to Cat Zingano, now I'm back to Ketlen Vieira, man. This fight's tough to call, probably because, Cat Zingano's such a fan favorite. A lot of people saw her fight Amanda Nunes, beat Amanda Nunes, and then go on to lose the title fight to Ronda Rousey. Since then, she's lost one fight to Juliana Pena and hasn't fought since then. She's going to be fighting Ketlen Vieira, who might not be on a lot of people's radar, but she's a very underrated bantamweight just because she doesn't have the name. She hasn't fought the killers of the bantamweight division aside from Sarah McMahon, so a lot of people don't necessarily know who Ketlen Vieira is. But I'll tell you, which is why I had to do my research for this prediction, or I'd probably be leaning toward Cat Zingano. Now, there's reasons I'm picking this fight on both sides. As far as Cat Zingano has not been very active. She's only fought 2 times in the last 3 years. She fought 1 time in 2015, 1 time in 2016. She took off 2017, and now here she is back 2018, ready to maybe make another title run, or making another title run, as Amanda Nunes is the current champion. And a lot of people, want to see somebody beat Amanda Nunes. They thought it would be Valentina Shevchenko. She wasn't able to get the job done, even though some people think she won the fight. I thought Amanda Nunes won that fight. So a lot of people think maybe Cat Zingano will be the girl to come in and get the job done. They say she has once. Maybe if she gets a title shot, she'll get Amanda Nunes the next time. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Even though if Cat Zingano was able to get a win here, I do think she'd be in position for a title shot, as Amanda Nunes has started to clear out the division. She beat Valentina Shevchenko twice now. She beat Ronda Rousey. Amanda Nunes beat Miesha Tate. Now she's about to fight Raquel Pennington. And then after that, the only people really left for Amanda Nunes to fight are Holly Holm, or possibly one of these 2 girls. So maybe the winner of this fight fights Holly Holm in a title eliminator. Maybe one of these girls fight for the title. We'll see. Cat Zingano's got a better case with her win over Amanda Nunes, but Ketlen Vieira, she fought Sarah McMahon in a tough contested fight, man. It was really similar to Sarah McMahon's most recent fight over this last weekend. Sarah McMahon just fought Marion Renault, had Marion Renault in a guillotine, ground and pounding her. The ref possibly could have stopped the fight if it would have went on much longer. Saved by the bell, and then Sarah McMahon was submitted via triangle choke in the 2nd round. Well, in this fight where Ketlen Vieira fought Sarah McMahon had Ketlen in a very bad position. Sarah McMahon, of course, took her down. An Olympic-level wrestler took her down, started to rain down vicious ground and pound with fucking elbows, busted a big old knot on Ketlen Vieira's head, elbows, a lot of just strikes and elbows. I mean, it was looking bad for Ketlen Vieira. She, against an Olympic-level wrestler and Team Alpha Male fighter Sarah McMahon. But Ketlen Vieira was able to escape the position, attack like a leg lock, and show off her jiu-jitsu skills when she came back in the 2nd round and submitted Sarah McMahon actually, and got the win via arm triangle, if I remember correctly. So Ketlen Vieira has shown she can fight high-level wrestlers, survive bad positions. She's only 26 years old, very high-level jiu-jitsu. So I think Ketlen Vieira can very well get this win here, and I think she's going to versus Cat Zingano, who hasn't been as active. Ketlen Vieira is undefeated at 9-0. Cat Zingano's 9-2, and Ketlen Vieira's fought 3 times in the last. She fought twice in 2016 and once in 2017, so she's been a little more active as well. So I'm picking Ketlen Vieira to get the W. Now, Stefan Struve and Andrei Arlovski, next fight of the night. I'm going to be picking Stefan Struve to get the W here. Andrei Arlovski, I believe, is 1-5 in his last 6 fights. He was on a 5-fight losing streak before winning his most recent fight versus the big baby Junior Albini. Junior Albini notably wore a Reebok diaper into that fight. He had on like fight shorts that for somehow were shaped like a diaper, and you know that was his whole gimmick, the big baby. But going with the gimmicks, you know, if he would have won that fight, it would have put him on a lot of people's radar. But Andrei Arlovski actually got a W. A lot of people didn't expect. A lot of people expected Andrei Arlovski to lose that fight and then retire, but he got a win versus Junior Albini and stayed in the fight game. And now he's going to be fighting Stefan Struve. Stefan Struve is 2-1 in his last 3 fights. He lost most recently to Alexander Volkov, so he's coming into this fight on a 1-fight losing streak. But, so Andrei Arlovski's coming off a win, Stefan Struve's coming off of a loss. But I'm going to be picking Stefan Struve to get the W here. Stefan Struve, like Cat Zingano, has a win over the current UFC champion. Cat Zingano has that win over Amanda Nunes. Stefan Struve has a win over Stipe Miocic. If either one of these guys or girls can put together 1 or 2 big wins, they can probably get a title shot, given that they, you know, I'm sure the champion would like to get that back, that loss, you know. So Stefan Struve, he's going to have to beat Andrei Arlovski and possibly one other guy, but I do think he'll get the job done versus Andrei Arlovski. Stefan the Skyscraper Struve coming in versus, both of these guys are UFC veterans, but Andrei Arlovski might be, you know, a little more toward the end of his career. We'll see what happens in this fight and what happens with the, you know, Andrei Arlovski. I wonder if he loses here, if he stays in the fight game, you know, because he got that win, or if he continues to where, you know, it wasn't, I believe he mentioned before his fight with Junior Albini, even he thought he would retire if he lost that fight. That wasn't the case. So let's move to my main event of the night, my people's main event. I know the real people's main event, I'm sure, is Frankie Edgar Brian Ortega. But for me, and of course I'm a little biased, it's Sean O'Malley versus Andre Soukhamthath. It's going to be a hell of a fight for one. And for two, fucking Sean O'Malley's the sugar show. Of course we're tuning in. Now, Andre Soukhamthath, these are 2 fighters. I like both of these fighters, so I don't like picking against Andre Soukhamthath. I don't want to see him fucking lose because I'm rooting for him. But I can't root for anybody against Sean O'Malley. That's the problem here. Sean O'Malley, Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, where he got on my radar. Insane, super entertaining fight. I went crazy for it. I'm like, oh shit, like Snoop Dogg went crazy for that fight. He was doing the Uriah cast or the Snoop cast, where Uriah Faber and Snoop Dogg were like doing live commentary for Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. And in that, Sean O'Malley was super impressive that night. Snoop, O'Malley! O'Malley! A lot of people, you know, that was a very memorable moment from that. But, I mean, Snoop Dogg wasn't the only one to go crazy. It was a spectacular performance. I remember I made a video where I was like, yo, I'm hyped. I'm on the bandwagon. Can't wait to see this kid's next fight. And I think Sean O'Malley actually commented on that video and was like, yo, dope video. I'll be looking forward to your video on my next knockout. And, you know, in the comments, we had a little exchange. I was like, holy shit, is this the real Sean O'Malley? Ended up being the real Sean O'Malley. I fucking couldn't believe it. You know, I low-key thought I was getting catfished. Like, am I fucking talking to a UFC fighter? Nigga, I'm a YouTuber that started doing this shit 5-6 months back. And I'm fucking talking to Sean O'Malley, dude, from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series right now. Shit was crazy, and it actually ended up being him. Well, lo and behold, we didn't speak again after that for a while. He ended up getting his next fight versus Terrion Ware in the UFC. And on Twitter, leading up to that fight, Sean O'Malley said, man, I can't wait to smoke Terrion Ware like a joint. I'm going to smoke Terrion like a joint, talking about his next opponent. I made a video on that, like Sean O'Malley's going to blah, blah, blah. So fast forward to the fight. Sean O'Malley ends up fighting Terrion Ware, and very impressive performance. It's not a knockout like he was hoping for, but he ended up having a spectacular 3rd round a lot of people didn't expect. Very entertaining fight. Sean O'Malley probably won the 1st round if I'm remembering correct. The 2nd round was a little slower because it looked like he might have been out of energy, but he was still throwing jumping triangles and shit. Super entertaining fight. Then in the 3rd round, it looked like Sean O'Malley got his fucking 2nd wind and he was throwing more strikes, just outstriking Terrion in the 3rd round. You know, I was just super hyped. Sean O'Malley showed he was able to, you know, for one, get a 2nd wind whenever it looked like he might be down and out of energy. Fucking, he showed his heart in that fight. He showed he was able to win a decision. Even if he got a knockout, people might have been left with questions like, oh, but can he win a decision? You know, has he ever been tested? Versus Terrion Ware. Terrion Ware was like 17-5 going into that fight. A very good professional record. Terrion Ware was definitely nobody's slouch. But Sean O'Malley got the win. So I reported on it, and in the report, I was like, Sean O'Malley smokes Terrion Ware like a joint, because I was thinking back to Sean O'Malley's tweet where he said he can't wait to smoke him like a joint. So I was just like, hey, he did it. He got the win. So Sean O'Malley smokes Terrion Ware like a joint. Lo and behold, Terrion Ware jumps in the comments, nigga, like, fuck, he didn't smoke me, you bitch, or something. And I was like, yo, holy crap, you know, my bad for offending you, broski, but I was just saying he smoked you. He beat you by unanimous decision. It wasn't controversial. It wasn't split. Sorry for the hyperbole. Didn't mean to offend you, Mr. UFC fighter, but I'm just celebrating a fucking win of someone I'm a fan of. And then he came out and denied that that was him, Terrion Ware and stuff, and so I apologized and all of that, but I made a fantasy fight between me and Sean O'Malley, and no, between me and Terrion Ware, and in that fantasy fight, fucking Terrion Ware was kicking my ass. Sean O'Malley jumped in, jumped through, said, hey, no, fuck that, why you fighting a YouTuber? Rematch me. You know what I'm saying? I said Terrion Ware had to get the rematch. So that was a little fun comedy skit I did. Sean O'Malley fucking ends up commenting on that comedy skit, thought it was hilarious, said him and his boys were laughing at it. So I said, I don't even know about how to ask, who to ask, how would I go about getting an interview? Shot me his email, shot me his phone number, set up my first ever interview with a professional fighter. Ended up being Sean O'Malley, man. I went and got a payday loan for that joint, bro. Put myself in the fucking hole so I could do this interview, get it, because I had a shitty ass laptop I was using previously. And so I did the interview. I stayed up till 7 in the morning setting up the computer for the interview. The interview was the next day at like 1 o'clock, so I had like a few hours of sleep. Get back up, ready for the interview. We do the interview, me and Sean O'Malley. It goes fucking great. He shows me his bong collection. It's Christmas time, got the Christmas up. I get to see the dog, tells me type of stuff that he, just random, just a great conversation. It wasn't no fucking corny ass. Oh, how about this? Huh? How about, okay, and what do you think about this? Huh? What do you think about Floyd Mayweather? Huh? It was just a fun-ass interview. I got to see his bong collection and shit. I ended up firing up. I was still smoking at the time. Got to fire up a blunt on live, smoke with him, essentially. Talked about the Snoop Dogg shit. I gave him some dope-ass advice as someone that's just looking, looking up, not looking up to him, but just looking out for his best interest. Like, use this UFC to propel yourself to be successful outside of the sport. Don't just try and become the next champion and defend your belt a million times, because that's not necessarily going to set you up for life. You're super interested in the marijuana, and into gaming, into fucking, you're a vegan, you got all this shit going for you. You can get these sponsorships, you can become a star, like Nick Diaz style, to where you can have your own fucking brand of weed and shit in the future. You don't just have to be known for knocking a guy out, you know what I'm saying? Because somebody that becomes a fan of you is going to last a lot longer than somebody that becomes a fan of one of your fights. They're just going to want to see you keep getting cool ass knockouts, but I just want to see you do successful, or somebody that's just a fan of him. So I got to mention all of that in the interview, and then the goddamn interview did not record. All of that, bro. Went through all of that. Interviewed my first fucking fighter ever. Sean O'Malley, undefeated prospect coming up. Didn't expect it. I was already a fan of him before the interview. It fucking happened, and it didn't record. So all I could do was come on here like this and retell what happened to you guys. And it really happened and shit. So that's another reason Sean O'Malley, even more on. I was already on the Sean O'Malley bandwagon, and then that shit happened. That fucking blew my mind. So that was crazy. That's why I'm gonna probably be biased with Sean O'Malley. Like, even if I'm being realistic and saying, I'm scared when he's in there with his hands down as a fan. I'm scared. The way he fights, it's like, oh shit, man, it's dangerous. But I'm still gonna pick him to win. It is what it is. Right until the motherfucking wheels fall off with motherfucking Sean O'Malley. Cool ass dude as well. Make sure you go follow him on all that social media and shit, and tell him Full Time sent you. No, I'm just fucking around. But yeah, so I'm picking Sean O'Malley. I like Andre Sukumtov. Fucking, I know his story about his UFC debut on short notice. Lost via split decision. Lost the next fight via split decision. All odds were against him when he fought Luke Saunders. Went in there and got the knockout. Couldn't believe it himself. Oh, like the look on Andre Sukumtov's face was, fuck yeah! Like just super excited. So if Andre Sukumtov were fighting anybody else, I would probably be rooting for him to get the W. But in this fight, O'Malley! O'Malley! You know what I'm saying? Now, let's get to the co-main event of the night. Frankie Edgar versus Brian Ortega. This is a hell of a fight. Brian Ortega is a guy that has, showed been down in fights, but he always finds a way to get the win as he's undefeated. He's looked like if the fight went to decision, he's going to lose on the judges' scorecards, but he doesn't let it go to the judges' scorecards ever. Even if he's losing the decision, even if you think he's going to lose unanimous, if it's close, it doesn't matter if it's close. Brian Ortega doesn't let the fight go to decision. His last 5 fights are all finishes. 4 of those he finished in the 3rd round. Most recently finished Cub Swanson in the 2nd round. And he's just been progressing. So Brian Ortega, crazy jiu-jitsu. His nickname is T-City, Triangle City, man. Some of the best jiu-jitsu in the featherweight division is seen in a long time as far as I'm concerned. I like him as a person. Cool-ass guy, cool-ass story. I'm rooting for Brian Ortega, but the problem is he's going against a former champion and a future Hall of Famer in Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar's fought for the title 8 times, won 4 of those title fights. He was scheduled to fight Max Holloway. First he got injured, then Max got injured. Now he's fighting Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega's kind of got to take this fight on short notice to help save the card. But Brian Ortega just got a new contract, so that's all good. But Frankie Edgar, man, until you show me you can beat Frankie Edgar, I'm not going to believe it. Nobody. After what he did to Yair Rodriguez, the fucking, Yair Rodriguez being built up, as the next big thing, big star maybe from Mexico and stuff like that. Frankie Edgar just pumped the brakes on all of that. And I'm not saying Brian Ortega is Yair Rodriguez by any means, but I'm just saying Frankie Edgar will let you know if you're ready for a title shot. He'll let you know that much. And for somebody like Brian Ortega, who's been down in his fights, but he finds a way to get the submission, Frankie Edgar's not just going to let you get that submission. And I'm not saying these other guys did. I'm just saying if he finds a way to finish Frankie Edgar the same way he's been doing these other guys, because I do see Brian Ortega being down on the scorecards in this fight. But the question is he going to get that late finish, that clutch finish like he's shown he can do time and time and time and time again? I'm picking Frankie Edgar, but if Brian Ortega gets this submission, bro, I'll probably not pick against him again, honestly. I don't know. It's hard to say that, but I'm picking Frankie Edgar to get the win here and then go on to fight Max Holloway. But if Brian Ortega gets the win, hey, that'll be fucking crazy, insane. And it'll just be insane, the rise of Brian Ortega. Not be like, oh my God, there's no way he can win. I'm just saying it'll be insane for Brian Ortega. It'll be huge. He'll be a huge, I don't want to say he'll become like a huge mega star, like crossover star. I'm just saying everybody will be hip to Brian Ortega if he submits Frankie Edgar, or like he's been doing these other guys. So Brian Ortega, tough task ahead of him. He's fighting Frankie Edgar. I think Frankie Edgar might close the gate on Brian Ortega in the co-main event. And then, of course, in the main event, Kunitskaya versus Chris Cyborg. Short notice fight. The main event was supposed to be, of course, between Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway. It fell through. UFC needed a title fight, so they pulled Chris Cyborg, possibly from an Amanda Nunes fight, which wasn't official. But, so they found Chris Cyborg an opponent. It's another bantamweight. We know Chris Cyborg who didn't want to fight a bantamweight, but it is what it is. She's fighting a bantamweight from outside of the UFC, one of Holly Holm's teammates, Kunitskaya. But other than being one of Holly Holm's teammates, which will help, if Holly Holm can say, look, fuck, I almost had her when I did this, so make sure, just do it like this and you'll catch her. That could really help. You know what I'm saying? And really, we've seen that with Team Alpha Male when Cody Garbrandt fought Dominic Cruz. Team Alpha Male had a lot of rounds with Dominic Cruz. You got to think after a while, they're going to, okay, we finally got the puzzle figured out. Cody Garbrandt came in there and looked like he had Dominic Cruz's puzzle figured out. So I don't think Holly Holm has figured out Chris Cyborg's puzzle enough to be able to give Kunitskaya the secret. But it is still worth mentioning. But I'm picking Chris Cyborg to get the win here. I think a lot of people probably are. This doesn't even remind me of a Holly Holm Ronda Rousey situation where the world's counting, Holly Holm out. But hardcore fans knew who Holly Holm was. They knew about Holly Holm's skill. She was an actual fighter, not just some. And Yana Kunitskaya's an actual fighter as well. But I'm talking about Holly Holm's credentials, her boxing credentials. She was already in the UFC and shit like that. So that's not the case for Yana Kunitskaya. She's coming over from Invicta. I believe she's the bantamweight champion after Tanya Evinger made it to the UFC. That's the thing about the Invicta bantamweight champions. Like, once Tanya Evinger comes over here, then it's not really the best Invicta fighters that are the champion anymore, because it was Tanya Evinger. Now she's in the UFC. So if it becomes Kunitskaya, it's like she's champion by default, which means, you know, she's probably not even as skilled. And I don't know if this is necessarily the case because I don't watch a lot of Invicta, but I think it's fair to say Tanya Evinger might be, you know, a better fighter than Kunitskaya, just going off of, you know, she was the Invicta champion. But I mean, I don't know enough about Kunitskaya to really talk about that, and it's really, you know what I'm saying, it's just talking about the main event. We all know who 95% of people are probably going to pick Chris Cyborg to win this fight, but it is what it is. Of course, anything can happen in MMA. So with that being said, these are my UFC 222 main card predictions. Maybe next time we'll get these live if we don't have the issues with the lag. Thanks for checking this out. And with that being said, I don't think there's anything left to say, man. Let's fucking go. Gonna be a dope night of fights. With that being said, and as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.